It's dark.
No, we did this last time and it was actually light on the video.
Welcome back to In the House with Beth and Ryan. I'm Beth, and this is Ryan.
Today, we are going to take a look at everybody's favorite topic, which is
Neighborhoods.
Yeah, neighborhoods. And every time we do this, it gets a lot of interest. So we don't want to do it every month, but it's nice looking back on it every once in a while. And we have a nice clean period to look at. So today, we are going to look at January to September 2024 versus January to September 2025 and take a look at some of the key differences by neighborhood. And
which is also our favorite.
Yeah, most people have an interest in this because if they live in a certain neighborhood or they want to move to or from a certain neighborhood, it's nice to know what's going on there. So today we're going to go through the average price by neighborhood. And interestingly, when we took a look at January to September of last year versus this year, the average price is almost identical. Overall, yeah. I think the difference was, we have it written down, I think the difference was $500 on average between last year and this year.
Yeah. So I know in our last video, we talked about September specifically at one point, and we said September this year compared to last year was down 3.4%. So it was interesting to see.
That was September specifically.
Just September. So it was interesting to see that when we look at the year overall, it's actually pretty flat.
It's pretty flat. There's not much of a difference at all. And the interesting part that we want to talk about today is, although the overall number on the surface is flat, beneath the surface, there are 17 different neighborhoods that all make up that almost flat. And some of them have had better years than others, and some of them have had worse years than others. And there's usually reasons why these things happen. So we're going to take you through a few of them and talk about why some of the changes have happened. And we're not going to go through everything today. So below this, if you're watching it on YouTube, you'll find a link to our blog, which we update every 2 weeks on this. And if you are on Guelph Today, it's going to be in the notes below the article. So
right. So you can click on that to get all the information, but we're going to focus on the biggest gains and the biggest declines, just to highlight reality.
In average price. Right. And so also in the notes, we'll have units too. So units are down actually 5% year over year, but we're not going to go through those today because we believe that most people are most interested in the average price. And I think before we even get into those numbers, it's worth mentioning that if an average price is up or down, it doesn't mean your house has gone up or down that price. It just means that it's the average of all the homes that have sold. And a few of them today that we'll talk about have had big swings. And that's because the mix of homes that have sold has changed.
Right. So, for example, if you live in a neighborhood where there's a mix of larger detached homes, maybe there's some townhomes and maybe there's even some condos, like apartment-style condos, and in a given year you have more from one segment than another, it may kind of skew that number in terms of the value, the average price of what's selling. It doesn't mean, like Brian said, that the price of real estate is down in your neighborhood.
Yeah, that's right. Overall, the average is flat. And this is really to give you an idea of what is impacting that average. Okay, so why don't we get into the numbers here? So average price in 2025 so far this year is $795,000. Last year it was $796,000. So it's less than $1,000 change year over year. So we would call that flat because it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
However, below the surface, what do you got?
So if we're looking at average price in terms of the neighborhoods let's start with the bad news first.
All right, let's go bad news first.
So biggest decline is actually Courtright East. So Courtright East, for those of you who don't know exactly where that is, it is just south of the university, essentially, and east of Gordon. So that neighborhood is down on average 13.5% in terms of price.
Yeah, it's a fair bit. And so, of course, this is why we look into why these numbers are down. The average home price in his neighborhood certainly hasn't gone down 13%.
Right.
And in fact, earlier this year, this was the most expensive neighborhood in town. And that hasn't changed. It probably still is. However, the mix has changed a little bit. And for context, last year, January to September, there were 32 homes over $1 million that sold. And this year there are 19. So that alone is a huge impact to the overall average price in this neighborhood. This neighborhood also has some of the condo developments on Gordon Street, some of them student buildings, but the condo segment isn't doing great.
Right.
So if
it's dragging the numbers down, but also we do see more turnover in that portion of this neighborhood. So this is actually a pretty desirable place. People tend not to move very frequently from their detached homes, but we do see more turnover within the condo segment. So that's kind of skewing the numbers down.
Right. It has a big mix of ranges from entry-level condos on Gordon to $1.5 million detached homes backing onto parkland. So it's a very unique neighborhood, but it is the one that is dragging down the average price so far this year.
Right. And then in number 2 spot is the General Hospital neighborhood, and it's down 8.4%.
Yeah, General Hospital, we made some notes here on these individual neighborhoods. General Hospital, this is a neighborhood that doesn't have any condos. There are no condo sales here at all. And that neighborhood doesn't really have a whole lot of homes that sell. This year, there's only been 22 of them. Last year, there were only 15. So it's not a high volume neighborhood. The difference this year versus last year here is that there were a couple big sales last year that happened. One on Orchard, and because this neighborhood makes up the Walnut Calendar, one of my favorite neighborhoods, makes up the Walnut Calendar, Sherwood, all of the Renfield. There are some more expensive homes in there, and a few of them sold last year that didn't sell this year, which has impacted the average price.
Right. Of course, when you have less volume, each individual sale has a bigger impact on the overall average.
Right. In this neighborhood, the majority of homes, 86% actually, sell under $1 million. So it's not a more expensive neighborhood. It's just that this year there is more volume and at lower prices.
Right.
So that's what's happened. What's number 3?
Okay, number 3, in terms of the decrease, biggest decrease is Village by the Arboretum, and they're down 7.9%, so very similar to the General Hospital.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one because it's a very specific person who lives in this development, and they're really having a slow year versus last year.
Yes, in terms of the number of units sold, it's down over 50%.
Yeah.
I will say, I think that last year, like the last couple years, other than this year, that the Village by the Arboretum saw a bit of a boom, where there was a ton of turnover and a lot more transactions than we see generally.
Yeah.
So now this year, things seem to have slowed back down, maybe to more of a normal pace for that neighborhood.
Yeah, and when you have a situation like the VBA, there's only a certain type of buyer. You have to be 55 plus to even live there. In this neighborhood, there's only been one that has sold this year over the asking price. The remainder of them have sold, almost all of them have sold below the asking price, which if you have done business or have been looking in the Arboretum in the last number of years, that's not usually the case. Usually it's a little more competitive there. So of the units that have sold this year, we have a total of only 17 versus 37 last year. So
big decrease.
Big decrease in the Arboretum, not only in the units, but as Beth mentioned, the average price as well.
Right.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the big gainers?
Sure. So we've identified a few neighborhoods that have really increased in terms of the average price. Number 1 is our own neighborhood, Exhibition Park.
Yeah, and Exhibition Park, it hasn't gained because the value of homes has significantly increased in Exhibition Park.
I should say the number 2. It's up 16.6%.
Yes, and we know why. We do a lot of business in this neighborhood, and it's because this year there have been significantly more homes that have sold over the average or even over $1 million in this neighborhood than prior years. It's purely a mix of more expensive homes selling this year versus the same period last year.
And one of the things that I just anecdotally that I've started to notice, and not only in Exhibition Park, but some of the other downtown areas, is that as time goes by, people are improving their homes too. So when a house sells again and it's been renovated or added onto, the prices naturally just goes to go up.
Yep. Yeah. And so it is a neighborhood. Exhibition Park has an older, like many of these downtown neighborhoods, has an older portion, an early 1900s portion. And then it has a secondary portion, which is probably the 50s. And more homes in this neighborhood of the older 1900s version have sold.
Which tend to be at a higher...
Which tend to be in a higher price point. So that's really the reason, but it has seen the biggest gain.
Yeah. And okay, number 2 is Riverside Park. Is up 15.9%.
Yeah, Riverside Park. It's an interesting one because it also has a lot of post-war bungalows. There, I would say,
kind of runs right into General Hospital, the one that we were just talking about. There's some similarities between the neighborhoods.
Yeah, and in this neighborhood, because a lot of the homes are similar, they obviously have similar price points. So 90% of the homes that have sold this year in Riverside Park have been under $1 million. And they're all in the range of $700,000 to $900,000. The condo segment, so this neighborhood has a little bit of condos. If you get towards Woodlawn, they are sluggish. Much like the rest of the condo segment right now, there's more room to negotiate and they are at lower prices, which brings down the overall average. But this one has been a pretty strong neighborhood outside of the condos.
We've seen some of the larger detached homes selling in the older part of the neighborhood, as well as some newer builds along Waverly. Yeah, so that's definitely driving the price up. Okay, the number 3 neighborhood for the biggest gains is St. George's Park, and that is up 10.2%.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty similar to what we've seen in Exhibition Park, where the older portion of St. George's Park, the stuff at the top of the hill, is starting to sell and turn over, where, you know, many of those homes have been occupied for 30 years by the same owners, and they're now moving on and they're coming up for sale, and they are bringing up the overall average. The other part of St. George's Park, it actually goes all the way to Victoria Road.
Right.
And so it's a large neighborhood. So that newer portion is a 50s bungalow mania, where there's a lot of them that go all the way to Victoria. So a lot of homes in that neighborhood. Those bungalows are in a segment that is also moving. So in totality, St. George's is a pretty strong spot.
So yeah, those are kind of the highs and the lows. But overall, when you account for all of the different neighborhoods, the numbers are actually fairly flat.
Yep.
And not that we said we were going to make any predictions, but
that's the next video. Don't ruin our surprise.
Yeah. Okay.
In our next video, we will talk about our 2026 predictions. We've been doing this for years, and there are a few things that we anticipate might happen. Some predictable, some maybe not as predictable. Some wild guesses, some maybe not. But for the sake of time, we haven't gone through every neighborhood today on this list. There are many that we didn't discuss. And we also have unit volume as well. So if you're curious about the number of houses that have sold in certain neighborhoods, we have all of that on our blog, as mentioned, which will be linked below. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us and find us at bethandryan.ca. See you later.